In this week's Pro Analysis, we're going to look at Rory McIlroy, who just won the Players' Championship this morning at TPC Sawgrass. So when we look at Rory McIlroy, we're looking at how he creates speed. Rory's known for hitting it a long way, and there's also been a lot of talk about his pelvis over the years and how he moves his pelvis in his golf swing. And I'm going to take a deep dive and look at how Rory moves his pelvis and talk about the different components of that and how they contribute to him generating so much speed in his swing. So if we looked at this last week, his average driving distance for the week was about 300 yards, with his longest drive being out there at about 340 yards. So he hits it a long way. And if we look at his pelvis, we're going to pay attention to really three things in this video. His sway movement, so his side to side from trail side to lead side movement in his swing with his pelvis, his vertical movements with his pelvis, so the downward and upward movements of his pelvis throughout his swing. And we're going to look at what we call X factor and X factor stretch. So that's the difference in rotation between the pelvis and the chest throughout the swing. So that's the turn aspect of his swing and how he's able to create some stretch between his pelvis and his chest throughout the swing. So if we start with the pelvis sway, that is a side-to-side movement. You can see in the avatar, I've got his pelvis vertical line on. That's the yellow line there. So the two numbers that I've brought up are his pelvis sway max in the backswing and where he got to pelvis sway at impact. So if we go ahead and start to roll his swing through, you can see that the max amount of sway that he's had in the backswing is negative 2.1 inches. That's 2.1 inches away from the target movement with the pelvis. Then if we continue on and we take Rory to impact, you can see that at impact, he's at 5.1 inches positive. That's towards the target. So if we add those together, he had 7.2 inches of lateral movement with his pelvis from the trail side to the lead side throughout his golf swing. So for those of you that think you should not be moving any lateral in your swing and just rotational, we don't see that with the best players in the world. There is certainly a lateral aspect that allows these players to move from side to side and create some speed that way. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the vertical movement. And this is really indicative of how Rory's able to use the ground, push into the ground, and when that ground pushes back, we call that ground reaction forces, and it's a way for players to generate more speed in that vertical movement throughout their swing. So if we take Rory again, in the backswing, we can see that the max amount of drop that he has in the backswing with his pelvis is 2.4 inches down. And then if we take him all the way to impact, we can see as that lead leg starts to extend, he is 1.4 inches up from where he started. So the difference between those two is 3 inches total. So that means he's moved 3 inches total from the max amount that he dropped in the backswing to where he is at impact, which is a great way to generate some more speed, use the ground properly through your swing. Now let's finally look at the turn aspects of the pelvis and the chest. So in the backswing, if we look at the X factor max, it's at negative 70. That means he's turned his chest 70 more degrees than his pelvis in its maximum turn in the backswing. We see it as yellow because that's actually a little higher than we see with the PGA Tour averages. So if we go ahead here and look at the above view, and we go ahead and throw on the shoulder and hip lines, we can see that he has a massive amount of separation at that point in time. Then in transition, so in a transition that's efficient, the pelvis will start and the torso will then follow. Well, we see in Rory's case, he stretches an additional 7 degrees with the pelvis against the torso in transition. So that means the maximum amount after that stretch is 77 degrees of separation between his pelvis and his chest. So that's a big amount of separation and a lot of potential speed there. But I say that in a way that's really the key, potential speed. Because whatever stretch you create between the pelvis and the chest, you need to close that gap as much as you can by the time you get to impact, or that potential speed isn't going to be utilized. And we see Rory does a brilliant job of this. At impact here, he closes that to within 5 degrees with the pelvis just out ahead of the chest slightly, which is what we commonly will see amongst the better ball strikers. So not only did he create a lot of potential speed between the pelvis and the chest with that X factor stretch through transition, but he accelerated properly in the downswing and was able to close that stretch by the time he got to impact and utilize as much of that as possible. I hope you enjoyed this pro analysis of Rory McIlroy, your 2025 Players Championship champion. Again, if you like these videos, go ahead and like and subscribe the Sportsbox AI YouTube channel. And of course, go ahead and download the app for yourself so you can get this type of analysis on your own golf swing.